Hey guys, it's Brett. Thanks for stopping by my channel. So today, I wanted to, before we get too far into July, talk about my 10 favorite books that I've read so far this year in 2023. I wrestle with this all the time, even at the end of the year, of like, do you include books that were published in a previous year, or do you stick just with the current publishing year? And finally, I decided, you know what? There was one book in particular, I actually thought there were two, but it turns out there's just one that was published in a previous year that I thought was so good that I decided I'm talking about, for me, what has been the best thing that I have read this year. The other 9 will have been this year. Also, I should just add, these are not in any particular order. It's just how I've thrown them next to me. So there's no kind of tell or anything like that. So let's just dive right in. All right, so the first book I want to talk about, and I probably won't go into in-depth studies on any of these because a lot of these I've already talked about in my monthly wrap-ups earlier. The first is Dennis Lehane's Small Mercies, concerning, this is set in 1974 in inner city Boston, on the eve of the integration of a series of schools in Boston, and a woman named Mary Pat Fennessy whose daughter goes missing, and at the same time, a young black man is found dead, and it seems that Mary Pat's daughter could have somehow been involved, and the book is about her trying to find her daughter at all costs. Amazing book, amazing character. It pulls no punches, really, really good. Highly recommend. All right, on a completely different track, Stephen Rowley's The Celebrants. This is a sweet, kind of bittersweet, tear-jerking book about a group of friends who, in college, when one of their group unexpectedly dies, makes a pact upon graduation that they will get together whenever one of them needs to reflect on their life, is feeling down about circumstances. They will get together and give each other a living funeral to make said person who's ever down recognize how much value their life actually has. So it's really good. If you want a great summer read, this is it. Okay, one of my monster books, The Deluge. I've talked about this book before. Huge, yes. Arguably for me, this is the most important book of the year. It is a fictionalized story of climate change. It is really smart. It is dense. It is heady. There were times when I started it that I was a little frustrated in terms of how some of the book is formatted with particular characters. There are a lot of characters, but you have to be patient. I would highly suggest reading this with a group or breaking it down into small, bite-sized chunks, like 30 pages a day. But if you want to get a sense, maybe you don't, of what the end of the world is going to look like in a very real capacity, it is this book, and it's frightening because it's all coming to life right now. Truly, truly, truly a remarkable, necessary, and next level book. Countries of Origin by Javier Fuentes. I just talked about this in my June wrap-up. It is a beautifully written, sensual story about a young pastry chef who is living in New York, who is also an illegal immigrant who knows he's about to be deported and makes the proactive step to go back to his homeland of Madrid. While on the plane, he meets another young man from Madrid who is a student at New York University, and a relationship begins to develop between the two of them. Truly, it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful debut, like one of many debuts this year that have just been so good. This one really just hit a chord with me, and I loved it. Also hitting a chord was In Memoriam by Alice Wynne. What an incredible book. This concerns, it's World War I, 2 young men at a school who have a very intense growing attraction to each other. one of them enlists and goes to the front line, and the other, terrified he will never see this friend again, and enlists as well and goes to the front lines as well. And what happens? It's truly a phenomenal book, utterly beautiful writing. Again, debut novel. I'm not going to be surprised at all to see this on the Booker list, the long list. It's a truly, truly exceptional book. I loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. Side note, she's going to be coming on the Gaze Reading podcast, and I couldn't be more excited. Also, back to Ireland with from Boston Irish to Ireland. Trespasses by Louise Kennedy. This was my one book that was published last year that I read this year because it was on the Women's Prize list. And so I was so glad it was, because I'd had it on my pile of books and never got around to it, and that really pushed me to read it. I am so glad I did. This is the story about, it's set in the Troubles in Ireland. A young school teacher named Cushla, what an amazing name, who works as a school teacher, an elementary school teacher. In the evenings, she helps out, and on the weekends at her family's bar, which her brother runs. The mistake she makes, one of her first, is that she gets involved with a married man who happens to be Protestant. And what happens? Amazing, amazing, amazing book. I actually wanted this to win the Women's Prize, and it was Demon Copperhead, which is fine because I like that book too, but I thought this was just phenomenal. So we're halfway done. I'm going to stick in Ireland for a second and talk about the Rachel incident, set in Cork, Ireland. This memory piece concerns a young girl who's at university working at a bookstore. She becomes best friends with one of her co-workers, a very charismatic young gay man who claims he's not gay, named James. And about their relationship, Rachel has a very profound crush on her English professor, which James tries to help along with unforeseen consequences that propel the remainder of the book. It's really wonderful. It's terrifically smart. Carolyn O'Donoghue is just an amazing, not only author, but person who has a podcast of her own, which I will get the name of and put it below because I'm blanking on it. But this is a really fun book, a really smart book. I really, really love this. A great summer read as well if you're looking for summer books. Summer books of a different kind. S.A. Cosby, All the Sinners Bleed. I know I just talked about this, so I'm not going to go into it great detail. Fantastic thriller. I'm a huge S.A. Cosby fan, but I think that this is his best book. Top of his game, about a black sheriff, newly appointed sheriff of a southern town, and a serial killer is loose, and what happens. Really good, dark, brutal, but I couldn't put this thing down. It's fantastic. Speaking of dark and brutal, Bret Easton Ellis, The Shards. I had to actually buy this copy, which is the UK edition, because I thought this cover was so amazing. This is, the autofiction thing of Bret Easton Ellis writing about a character named Bret Easton Ellis who is at the Buckley School, which is a real secondary school here in Los Angeles, which is actually my kid's school. And his group of kind of overprivileged friends. There is a new kid who arrives at the school, very handsome, very charismatic, while at the same time, there's been a series of murders that have been taking place throughout the San Fernando Valley, and Bret feels that it very much could be this new student who's killing the people. And what happens? I couldn't put this thing down. I have never read Bret Easton Ellis. Of course, I was familiar with him with Less Than Zero, American Psycho, but this thing was just, I still think about it. Parts of it terrified me. It's so worthy of a conversation. It is very explicit, both with its violence and its sexuality. So Fair warning for anybody who, may be sensitive to all of that, because it plays with that in excess, but a great, great, great book. Speaking of the big books, guys, no surprise, Covenant of Water. Loved this so much. Abraham Verghese is a master. I think this is like an all-time classic that begins with a 13-year-old child bride in India and the generations that come, along with a family curse that will, that's eventually revealed. It is amazing, 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 amazing. Again, another one where it would be great for a book club or to read with a group. And I would just suggest break it down into like 30-page increments and read it over a month so everybody can savor it. Also, Verghese reads this in the audio and does an amazing job. So there's that too. So fantastic. And my final book is Hello Beautiful, Hello Beautiful by Ann Napolitano. Ann Napolitano, of course, wrote Dear Edward. This is her kind of modern retelling of the Little Women story. I just loved it. First of all, I love a family drama. I love a generational drama. I thought it was really beautifully rendered. I thought that these characters were completely unforgettable. I was with it the whole time. Just a really, really, really beautiful, special book, and what an amazing cover. So, yeah. All right, so that was it. It was very quick. I didn't belabor this at all. Those are the 10 books that I have thought were the best so far. Certainly, there are many that are runners-up, and I'm certain some of this could change in the latter half of the year. I'm reading right now and almost finished with it, Tim Murphy's Speech Team, and I'm absolutely loving it. I think it's so genius. I think Tim Murphy is just an amazing writer. He wrote Christodora. Then he wrote a book called The Correspondence, which was one of my favorite books the year that came out. I'm now convinced that he can write almost about anything. I think he's so smart and has just really wonderful, unforgettable characters. So that is due to come out August 1st, but please look for Speech Team. But I'm sure I'll be talking more about that at the end of my July wrap up, and probably bring it up at the beginning of my July TBR, which I hope to have up in the next week or so. So at any rate, let me know if you agree with some of these books, if you've read some of these books, if you want to read some of those books. I'm so curious. And also, please tell me what some of your favorites have been this year, because I would like to know that too, to see if maybe we have crossover, or to see if there's stuff that I've read. I would love to know all those things. So at any rate, thanks you guys. I hope you're all doing well. Thanks for stopping by, and I will see you all soon.